So going over the teased information from Mark Rosewater, the head of vision design for Magic the Gathering. And he's been leaving these hints for what to expect in the upcoming sets for the past few sets. And last time I did decently well at predicting and getting some stuff. So I'm going to try to do that again with the new one. Oh yeah, it was crashing. That's what I figured you meant. So I'm going to go through all of the hints individually. I wrote them out and have what I think are what I hope to see versus what I think is realistic to see, as well as some other information to help with understanding the hints. But before I do that, in addition to those hints, there was some information taken from the Comic-Con preview that overlaps with some of the information. So this is less organized. So when I originally got the information about the set boosters, I thought they had said that Zendikar had more rares than usual, and not just that they were starting to do more rares than usual, which I had done a lot of number crunching on that day to see like, oh, does that mean that they have a second sheet necessary, like double-faced cards or something, in order to make the ratio what they had announced? Turns out I don't think they need to, but might be. So we already know that the 3 planeswalkers in the set are Nahiri, Jace, and Nissa, and we've seen the Jace and Nissa. Oh, sorry, we've seen the Jace and Nahiri. Haven't seen Nissa. She'll probably be shown on Tuesday. So I'm recording this on Sunday, August 30th, and we get our first preview stream in 2 days on September 1st. And so I predict they'll show Nissa then, since they've already shown the other 2 walkers. Full art lands are back. So this one intrigued me the most. 6 dual lands that Mark had made years back and find a home in this set. So we were trying to figure out, like, how do you do a cycle of 6? Because it says dual lands, so they're all going to be double colored. So if you're putting all 6 in the set, there has to be some sort of reason, and you couldn't do that very cleanly with most dual land cycles. So one thing to consider, we're going to talk about Omnath in a little bit. Omnath we've seen on the art of this new set with arms of 4 different colors. He's been gaining a color of mana every time we've seen him. Now he is white, so it could be all the colors that are not, or rather, wait, no, those are, so that's 4, which leaves you all the non-black lands, if it's dual lands of all the non-black colors. But also, years back, Mark was the head of, he led the set for Odyssey Block, or at least Odyssey the set. And so back then they had a set called Torment where they made a mistake that they're not going to repeat, of basically having more cards in that set be black and care about black, and the set that followed it, Judgment, was like blue and white, or sorry, green and white focused, and it kind of messed up the balance of the different colors, and so they don't want to do that again. But when they did that, they did leave these tainted lands, which were a cycle of 4 lands that all tap for black or one of the other 4 colors if you control the swamp. But they haven't done dual lands to finish that kind of cycle. And it could be something such that, like, they basically, it's a version of the tainted lands, but it's for the 6 other color pairs, because the other color pairs were lacking. Could be a continuation of some other stuff. We threw some ideas around on the stream where we watched the Comic-Con panel together. Unfortunately, the VOD for that didn't save, and so I don't have exactly what we had come up with. Again, some of my initial predictions were based on my now incorrect ideas that there needed to be a second sheet for the cards. So there's a new mechanic that takes an old theme that we know players like and Zendikar it up. So originally I thought that was referring to some use of double-faced cards. It can mean a few different things, so I'm excited to see what that means. But in terms of double-faced cards, there's a way to Zendikar it up is that the land is constantly changing. But on Zendikar, the concept for the original Adventure World version of Zendikar is this land is constantly changing as a result of the royal and its mana richness. And so lands that transform, we saw things transforming into lands in Zendikar block. Oh, sorry, not Zendikar, excuse me, Ixalan block. but we didn't see like lands that flip to different modes, and that might be something that we would get in this set, where the land is constantly changing. 2 returning mechanics that previously appeared in the Zendikar set. From the Jace set they've previewed, we know that one of them is Kicker, and I'd be shocked if they didn't have Landfall. Now, initially I was thinking it was going to be Landfall and then one of the ally-related mechanics, like most likely Rally over Cohort, but I'm starting to think that they might not actually do a huge ally focus in this set, which sounds odd if they're going back to Adventure World Zendikar, but I think that from like the preview Nahiri and stuff, they might be going in more of a warrior tribal direction and not actually using ally stuff, because also there's limited design space left for allies, or they might just go a different direction with allies if they go. Returning legendary creatures and one gets a new color. We basically know that's Omnath. Another returning legendary creature, the only other one I'd be like pretty sure would return would be Drana. Both Drana, Omnath, and Linvala all showed up in both of the previous Zendikar blocks. Same with Kalitas. I think Drana is the one that has the most clear story connections that has a reason to come back, but it could be a few different ones. Unfortunately not Lorthos though, because he is one dead octopus. We saw some art, and then there's a cool new thing that has a card that looks different from a regular Magic card, more than just the regular showcase version. I got that from his discussion during the Comic-Con preview about the set boosters. One thought is that maybe they fixed level up and figured out a way to make that work. Most likely if they did that, it would be using double-sided cards. But I think a double-faced card would count towards that thing being referred to. So again, the format's going to be what I hope to see versus what I think is realistic. So, a white creature that can make an opponent lose the game simply by attacking them, no matter how much life they have. This one I didn't have a very specific prediction, to be honest. It could be just whatever they want. So it could be something like if you control however many different creatures with different names, or different creatures with different names or something, you win the game, or something tied to allies, like if you attack with when you attack with this creature, if you control an ally of each color, you win the game or something. It could be really anything. What I would guess is it'd be something more along the lines of going off of the balance mechanic. Like if your opponent has more cards in hand, creatures in play, and lands in play than you, when this creature attacks, you win the game. Something like that. They said that it's no matter how much life you have. So, oops, I just keep moving the wrong thing. My guess is it would not actually count like if they have more life or whatever, because it's supposed to be agnostic to life total. Okay. A multicolored creature that lets you repeatedly reanimate permanents out of your opponent's graveyard for no mana. Most likely that would be something that's at least green and black, and most likely it's not Omnath. It'd be cool if it was a legendary creature, because that seems like the type of thing people would want for Commander. The only previous legend that would kind of fit the bill would be Rexiel, but it explicitly does non-permanents, doing only instants and sorceries. Also, we know absolutely zero lore-wise about Rexiel, so it really could just be anything. But I don't think that that's the new Omnath, because I think it would at least be black. Yeah, it's going to be Golgari, almost certainly. Alright, 3 creatures with 5 creature types. Okay, so here's where things get funky. I'm just going to reveal what this says here. So, in order to actually do that, or let me rephrase this, they cannot do that within one type line, unless they expand it to allow double length type lines, like 2 rows, which would be a huge change in their printing. They wouldn't be able to fit 5 on one line, because like they struggle even with 3. Like you can see here, we got Kezul Warlord, which is a Minotaur warrior ally. The German words are all really long, and French they have to use and between all of them. Like there are limitations with that. So what I would kind of hope for, or what might be interesting, is if they use the batching technology. What I mean by that is, in Dominaria, when they coined the term historic, and historic refers to 3 specific things: artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. If they use some sort of batching type line, or some sort of batch keyword, like this is a livestock, and a livestock is a horse, ox, goat, whatever, that'd be a way to add creatures to your type line without actually putting them on there. I don't think it's either of these, and I don't actually hope it's either of these, but I am very curious to see what it is. I do hope to see batching used more in the future, but I don't know if it's the intended use would be to add creature type lines, because that seems odd, and it would be a lot to keep track of. More likely, they could use double-sided cards where they have some types on one side and other types on another. That's the best explanation I can think of. So 3 creatures with 5 creature types. That's what I would think. But I don't know. It's also possible that, like I said, if they fix level up somehow, which would probably use double-faced cards, they might have it so the creatures gain creature types when they level up. That's also a possible explanation. Alright. An artifact granting +2/+2 to a subset of creatures that first appeared in Alpha. And I have a note to myself, look at the row below for notes first. Okay. So, he specifically said subset of creatures. A Figure of Destiny-like creature? You like the second type line? Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, Figure of Destiny type creature would also fit the bill, but they'd have to do 2 separate ones. And Figure of Destiny inspired the level ups creatures. So that kind of all fits together. So a subset of creatures could mean creatures of a certain type or of a certain quality. So here are some examples of ones that you would see in Alpha. Serpents, or like basically some creature types that showed up would be serpents, rats, merfolk, etc. And those are all ones that I think serpents, besides serpents, would have showed up as being referenced in, or showed up referenced on cards as referring to those groups. Like for each rat you control, you had the power for the plague rats, or there was Lord of Atlantis, and then walls are cards that refer to walls, but the defender terminology had not yet been differentiated from walls as of Alpha. So I don't think they'll do defender, even though Zendikar had defender tribal stuff like Vent Sentinel and Overgrown Battlement during Rise of the Eldrazi. So I would love to see that, where it's like flavor-wise, you know, repairs to Seagate or something like that, boosting. I prefer defender things, but it could be wall things, something like that. Or something cute would be for Merfolk. If Kiora left Thassa's Bident there, or is still there with Thassa's Bident and is repurposing it to boost Merfolk, that'd be kind of cute. But I don't. These are just some other ideas. Untapped creatures, white creatures, non-flying creatures, or other groups of creatures that are referred to in the set Alpha. So, for the more specific actual things, I would like to see the thing where they talk about non-flying creatures and it's some sort of thing where it's like an overhang, like shelter from above, where like non-flying creatures get +2/+2 or something. But most likely, I think like token creatures would be nice. We haven't had something that we haven't had a non-creature card. Let me see if this is right. A non-creature permanent that serves as an anthem for tokens other than Intangible Virtue and original Innistrad block. So I could be wrong about that, but I think it would make sense for there to be an artifact that boosts the power and toughness of all your token creatures. In Alpha, there was also the card Living Lands. Oh, by the way, yeah, tokens existed since Alpha because of the Hive, and Living Lands is a card that turned forests or all land, I think it was forests, into land creatures. And being on Zendikar, there's going to be some land creatures, and usually from reanimating with auras or other effects. Like Nissa almost always makes land creatures. Giving +2/+2 to land creatures is something that would make the most sense to me, I think. So that's why I would say it's a more realistic prediction. but it's also kind of out there, right? Because it would only show up in this world. X being used for a variable it's never been used for before. Okay, so there's a lot of options for this, and they're saying X as the variable, which I don't know if they mean cost, like as the cause versus the effect. Either one could be new. So there's a few different options with that. If they're doing the multiple creature types on a card, they could do something that cares how many creature types that card has. But that's not going to be largely very useful. I think more likely, or something that I think would be cool, we've had X in the cost of an equipment to put counters on it, but we've never had X as an equip cost. So if we have X, and I'm saying equip cost because last time we were in Zendikar, there was an equipment sub-theme, and also Nahiri has an equipment sub-theme, and we've already seen that on her new card. So I think that we might get some interesting equipment, and so X is the equip cost, and it might depend on like the creature you're equipping, like, oh, pay X for the equip cost, where X is this creature's CMC or number of colors it is, or something like that. Or it's an effect where it's like, pay X for the equip cost, and the creature gets that much, or something like that. Obviously, you need to do some information for tracking that, but I think that would be cool, because we've never seen X in an equip cost. Alright, 6/6 artifact creature that costs 3, and a 7/5 artifact creature that can cost 3. So, I have flavor predictions for the hopes, as well as what I think their conditions will be, and then, so I hope to see for the 6/6 artifact creature that costs 3, I want to see a Tuk-Tuk, a new Tuk-Tuk as the artifact version, and I want, presumably the 6/6 for 3 will either only be castable from basic lands or not castable with basic lands, something like that. And then for the creature that can cost 3, I think it might be something kind of like the Stone Idol traps, like where it's the giant golem type creature that gets a discount for some sort of trap condition. It might not literally be, because we already have like from one of the commander sets, we got a creature that was meant to mirror the Stone Idol trap card. But it might be something else in that family of, oh, you tripped the trap, or for each thing that your opponent has, you discount this. It could be a flash creature, like a rolling head, or something like that. But I think that safer guesses could be things related to Actually, after going through and writing all my predictions, I disagree with my number 1 for this, but unless I'm wrong about one that's further down the list. Basically, there is a hint about mana symbols that have only been used a few times in the past, and so they could be related to the type of mana generated for that. But I think it's actually more likely to be something like Mirror Enforcer, who can only use mana generated by non-land permanents, or could be only from basic lands or not from basic lands. Basically, a restriction on the type of mana you could use to cast it. Or again, like I don't have a specific prediction for the realistic one with this, other than my idea of caring about the type of lands used. The other option would be a restriction on when you can cast it, because a 6/6 for 3 is obviously undercosted, and we need some sort of downside. For the can cost 3, I think that it would be something like an affinity for, it could even be affinity for lands, but or something in that vein. But if it can be reduced down to 3, let's see, it says can cost 3. So it's possible that it's a colored artifact creature, where it's got its colorless portion, or its generic portion can be reduced, but also the language there means you could just have it be completely colorless and have the cost reduced, and sometimes it'll cost 3, sometimes it'll cost 1, sometimes it'll cost whatever. Alright, this is one I was referring to above, which after doing it, realized I should have changed my previously written thing. The return of 4 mana symbols that have each only ever been used on 2 cards before. Okay, so you can kind of see the spoiler for this one. I think this is the 2-bridge stuff. Aw, thanks, Chris. So, what I mean by 2-brid is that these costs are paid either with 2 generic mana or 1 of a specific color. All of the 2-brid symbols have only showed up on either Reaper King or one of the cards in this cycle that originally had them. Flame Javelin, Spectral Procession, Beseech the Queen, Tower Above, and the blue one, which is like Consult the Fair. I looked and I couldn't find other mana symbols that really counted for this, where they each only showed up twice. Especially since I think I didn't check thoroughly for each of the colors of Phyrexian mana, but I'm pretty sure each of them had showed up more than twice. And if not, either way, they're not going to bring Phyrexia to Zendikar right after they just got rid of the Eldrazi. It's odd that they would only be using 4 of the 5 symbols, so it's not a cycle, which part of it makes me think it could be used on Omnath, because part of the concern with making a 4-color card is that it'll be largely uncastable in Standard, but if you use 2-Brid with it, it might be able to be costed more appropriately, such that Omnath could still see Standard play and still be 4 colors. So it could be 2 Brids of all the non-black colors. But I'm not sure. Again, it doesn't have to be Omnath, but with the thing of 6 mentioned in the MaRo's thing about the lands, and Omnath being all the non-black colors, I think this would be the place where we might see some cycles broken. But let me know if I missed any. Like, I looked through a bunch of different, like, rarely used mana symbols, and, like, most of them were used. I'm pretty sure 2 is the only one that hasn't been used more than once. I even looked at things where, like, things that cost 13 and things that cost 12 is like, well, 12 things use, or sorry, 3 things use the 12 symbol in it, and only Mama Emrakul uses the 13, or rather, like, Eldritch Moon Emrakul uses the 13 symbol. One thing uses the 20 symbol. Like, I don't even know what the other options could be, so it's, like, basically confirmed to be 2-Brid in my eyes. Lands that come with a choice you've never had before. Okay. This one, like, is really interesting. And something that we're thinking about when talking about dual cycles, now this would not be applicable if we're with the assumption of the tainted stuff, but it would come with a choice of a land when it enters. So if it's, so the dual lands could either, like, you play it and you get either a basic land token created from one of the 2 choices or something like that, or a land that you can choose to transform it on entry would be a new choice, something like that. Again, there's kind of a few different options here, but you wouldn't just be choosing another color, like with the Thriving lands from Jumpstart. That kind of eliminates one of the options that one might consider with this kind of choice you never had to make before, where you play a land and choose a second color. Unless he's not counting the Jumpstart ones and, like, they're reprinting the Thriving lands or something. Which, based on number crunching, could be possible, but I don't think it would. I think he would not include it as this hint there. But I'm excited to see what they do with the lands. I would love it if it's land tokens or lands from your sideboard of, like, one of the basic land types or something. I don't think they'd do it from sideboard, though. They'd most likely do it as a land token, since they were messing around with that with the Mystery Booster cards, and when previously they didn't think they would be able to do so. But they might also get a basic from outside get a basic land from outside the game of the type of your choice. Again, if other mechanics are leaning towards having transforming lands, you could have the option for lands that would transform upon entry if you so choose. So that'd be a new choice. Targeted enchantment removal in black. Okay, so we've only had black enchantment removal in recent times in, like, 2 cards. One was in Commander and one was Farika's Libation, which does target something and does cause enchantment removal. I just have this here as a reference, but its target opponent sacrifices an enchantment. Most likely they're going to give black enchantment removal with the downside, since they've been toying around with it. So destroy target enchantment unless the controller pays, like, X life, or it might require you to sack a permanent of your own in order to be able to destroy target enchantment. I don't think is very exciting as a prediction, but it's cool that we know that that's coming. Oh, okay. This one, you can start to see. I need to expand my Hushbringer because you can start to see some of the spoilies. A red or I think red-white means red and white, so either gold or hybrid red-white creature with a line of text that starts with whenever and ends with draw a card. So whenever, and then whatever the trigger is, the end result is something, something, and draw a card, or just draw a card. So what I want it to be, which I know it's not, but I use all caps because I'm excited. I want my legendary Ox. I want something to go with Bruce Tarl and the Pillarfield Ox, the notoriously stubborn oxen of Zendikar. And I'd love if they do something with livestock tribal of like oxen, goat, or whatever. And like whenever one blocks, draw a card or something like that. I think that would be the funniest, cutest, coolest thing. And I would love that to happen. Something we talked about earlier when thinking about the Commander Legend, or Commander Master, whatever, the new Commander set was, is I wanted them to have a legendary Ox to partner with Bruce Tarl. But if we get it here, I'm not going to be upset. So that's what I would love to see. But that's not obviously my realistic choice. I think that realistically, we're more likely to get something that cares about equipment, specifically like when you equip a creature or equip this specific creature, you draw a card with a reminder text saying, hey, equipping would mean you have to be on a different creature before you move it back because it wouldn't count otherwise. If it wasn't both red and white, I would think that it was flavored around Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs, who requires you to pay a toll if you want to get through the cliffs. And he's referenced in a card in Worldwake with this legendary creature, but also on some other cards. So I don't think it's him if it's red and white, but he would make sense as a legendary creature that requires your opponent to do something or else you draw a card as paying the toll. But like I said, with the expected equipment sub-theme, more likely something with equipment, and I think in order to differentiate it from Pure Steel Paladin, it would be like when this creature becomes equipped or something like that, or when a creature becomes equipped. A card with 3 different activated abilities that all copy something. Honestly, this is kind of like whatever. There's a few different things they can do. One way that this can be shown is if they do end up doing a fixed level up or something like that, the creature would gain new versions of copying ability. And Echo Mage, I believe, if my memory doesn't mistake me, was MaRo's first preview card for Rise of the Eldrazi. Like, this was the first card he showed off for Rise of the Eldrazi. Again, this is pulling from my memory of being way back in the day. I don't know 100% if this is right. But it would be cute if they did a variation on Echo Mage, who's from, obviously, if his level up card's from the set Rise of the Eldrazi. Otherwise, it might be something flavored along with Mirror Pool. We may or may not have things that require colorless mana in this set. Not 100% sure. Since the Eldrazi aren't around, so it's not going to be Eldrazi requiring it, and historically, or rather in Oath of the Gatewatch, cards that required colorless mana specifically were only associated with the Eldrazi. So I think it's unlikely, but it's possible. But more likely it's something like an Echo Mage themed around this idea of the Mirror Pool or something like that. Again, it could be honestly kind of whatever for copying. It could be something that literally has 3 different copy abilities listed out, or it could be something that gains an updated copy ability at multiple stages. If it's a double-sided card, that'd have different ones on each side. I don't know how he counts those, but that would be my prediction. All right, snippets of rules text are the next portion in the reveal. So I might not have everything for these. Like, some of them are kind of boring in my opinion. Like 3+, I didn't put anything, so just be like 3+, the number of lands you control, 3+ the number of creatures you control, 3+ X, whatever. Doesn't entice me all that much, but it's kind of cool. Different converted mana cost, X or less. So this could be something like I actually didn't write this out, but this could be something along the lines of a Genesis Wave Epic Experiment type of effect, where you pay X into a cost and then cast however many from the top cards of your library, like where X is different converted mana costs, or it could also be something not Chalice of the Void, because that's miserable, but it could be something kind of in that family of that, or with like Ratchet Bomb or Blast Zone, where it has some sort of effect affecting all things with cost X or less. like Gaze of the Gorgon, which was like the sorcery version of Pernicious Deed, like something in that family. There's, again, a bunch of options for this, so that one I found less exciting to write about, but it'd be cool if it was something more Genesis Wave. Okay. Equal to 20 minus. This one's a little bit more exciting, because 20, of course, is the number that you start at for your life total. I don't know if y'all youngins remember this, but Death's Shadow is originally from Worldwake, aka the second Zendikar set. So there could be a new version of Death's Shadow where its power and toughness are equal to 20 minus something else, and they just kind of restate how this is, or something in the family of Death's Shadow, because hey, they've advertised like this. And alternatively, something along the lines of like draw X cards where X is equal to 20 minus your life total. So effects that scale and get better as your life total gets lower, or your opponent's life total gets lower, although it's more likely to be on your own, so it's not as win more. That isn't specifically on a creature, harkening back to Death's Shadow. Alright, Cowards can't block warriors. So I mentioned that Nahiri's card makes warrior tokens and specifically looks for warriors or equipment, which kind of tips some alarm bells for me that they might actually be focusing more on warriors and not on allies. There are 3 previous cards that mention cowards. The original Cowards Can't Block Warrior cards was Boldware Intimidator, originally shown off in Future Sight, but given its actual home on the plane of Lorwyn in the Morningtide set, which means that this specific card, I believe, could not be reprinted in Zendikar, because I believe Boldware is a proper noun for a location on Lorwyn. Pyrophobia and Reprobation, though, show cowards being mentioned in text on Dominaria, where Norn the Wary lives, and Reprobation is set on Innistrad. So it's cross-planar, the coward's existence. So I'm hoping to see another card that has something like this, where it's on a creature that makes cowards can't block warriors, or maybe in an enchantment or artifact, and then has some sort of effect turning things into cowards. It'd be cute if we saw an actual coward type creature for the first time, because I don't believe we've had any actual coward type creatures. I don't think Norn the Wary was given the coward subtype, was it? Human warrior. Oh, that's ironic. But yeah. So I don't know, but I wanted to kind of just point out that I don't think it would be a literal Boldware Intimidator reprint. And that this speaks more broadly to, if this exists and this Nahiri exists, warriors are a theme, which plays down the potential for allies. Okay. Don't lose unspent red mana. This one, I kind of have only one prediction for this, both my hope and realistic thing. I think that this is text from the new Omnath. So the original Omnath, with its updated Oracle text, says, you don't lose unspent green mana as steps and phases end. New Omnath, if you go in the order of the 4 colors, that, again, it's the ones that are not black, you start with red. Don't lose unspent red mana, green mana, white mana, or blue mana as steps and phases end. I think that's a line on Omnath. Straight up. But yeah, I'm excited because I'm pretty sure that, like, we don't see this line of text very often, and it being don't lose unspent red mana could just be a different red card with that effect, because red rituals could have effects like don't lose unspent red mana through the end of this turn. Hey Chris! It could be that that's just the red one. You're right. Could be that that's just the red ability. It could also be that mana of those 4 colors does not empty at the end of turns and phases, and then also some sort of other ability. But since only 4 of the 5 two-bird mana costs are returning, at least presumably, it could be that in order to make the Omnath Castle in the standard, that his mana cost is 2 grid of everything that's not blinding. But the other stuff is interesting. So if it's the 3rd time in a turn, tracking things thrice in a turn is hard, or tracking things thrice is hard to do if you're not looking within a specific time frame of 1 turn. So it's mostly going to be looking for triggers 3 times in a turn, or activations 3 times in a turn. I don't have a specific thing with this. It could be that they changed the language for when you draw a card, if it's the 3rd time you've drawn a card this turn, you could do that. Recently, they've been using the language that does not match that for cards drawn in a turn. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, do thing X. But because 2 is easier to track than 3, it's possible. Twice the number of equipment. Oh, that's her ultimate, wasn't it? Yeah. Where's here? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so we know that one anyway. So this one I don't have a specific with, but some cool things could be like, if there are double-sided cards in the set, because one of my theories might be that because Zendikar is about a land that constantly changes, you have lands that could transform, or other cards that are transforming. You could have something that checks, hey, has this thing been transformed 3 times in a turn? Like flip, 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 and every time you're transforming, you're checking, and if it's the 3rd time, it gets some sort of extra effect. Something like that would be, I think, really cool. But again, there's a lot of options for this one. Okay, so some creature type lines you'll see. Some of these are more exciting than others. Mouse! So we only just got the mouse creature type added in Throne of Eldraine, and it was only on creature tokens, I believe. I think it was just for the Cinderella carriage. And they mentioned earlier that there was a creature, or there were 2 creatures that had 5 creature types. So if this is some sort of conglomeration thing, it could show up here, but I don't think they would add a mouse to that. The only thing that showed up as a rat in all of the previous Zendikar blocks was Scribnibblers, which honestly kind of look like cute mice. So we might see a thing related to the Scribnibblers. That's a mouse. Leviathan Crab, I don't have anything to add other than Rip Lorthos, the amazing octopus. Shapeshifter Rogue just seems cool. Demon Cleric. Okay, so for some sense of scale, there are 115 demons, of which only a handful have secondary types. Some including Nightmare, Elder, Demon, Dragon, like Crocodile, Scorpion, Spirit demons, other stuff like that. Minion could maybe be considered a class, and there's 2, the Minion of Leshrac and Minion of Tevesh Szat. And the one demon that you could say has a class, like has a job, would be Silent Blade Oni, which is the Demon Ninja. So it is very odd to have a demon with a subtype of a class, like a Demon Cleric. So it'd be kind of cool to see a Demon Cleric that's straight up just like a Demon Cleric, but it could also be, again, if there's transforming stuff, and depending on how he qualifies this, there could be a Cleric that transforms into a demon or gains the demonic aspect, or a Cleric that gains the demon type in addition to other types. If it's a creature that gains new type lines as it changes state somehow, then it could be a Cleric gaining demon, or a demon that goes to priest school and becomes a Cleric. No, auto capture. Priest school, not preschool. There we go. Seminary, what have you. Maybe it's just a demon who felt a calling to the clergy. Yeah, it could be. Worm Horror, again, not super exciting to me, besides seeing permutations on... Worms aren't Green's iconic creature anymore, Hydras are, but they are kind of big. We have seen a skeleton worm on Zendikar before. Hydra Horror, again, just kind of yikes. The gods work in mysterious ways. You're right. Well, I wanted to... Oh, I should have pasted the flavor text from Pestilence Demon. Or wait. Or no, I guess this flavor text works too. This is a Zendikar Demon. When these intruders are gone, Zendikar will be my throne, my palace, my playground. So the demons were eager for the Eldrazi to be gone because they wanted to be the alpha predators. So, I don't know, Demon Cleric Society is going to be good. As A Muting in the chat says, I've had my fair share of worm horror, am I right, ladies? Mm-hmm. Cat horrors! So, it'd be interesting if it was like a Felidar horror, but we have seen on Zendikar leopards, lions, tigers, and pumas, all of these different types of big cats. So it could be like a panther, like a black panther, or like some sort of shadow cat in general that just happens to be one of the other big jungle cats. But I'm excited for that. Cats are cool, especially since we have cat tribal payoffs in Standard. So, looking forward to that. Okay, and the final creature type thing mentioned, similar to the Demon Cleric, was Angel Wizard. And Angels have even more cards and even fewer with secondary types. So, of the secondary types for Angels, oh, that's not really showing on the screen very well. Let me... We have some Angel Spirits, Angel Horrors, Angel Allies from previous Zendikar block, one Zombie Angel if you count the Embalmed token, and then one Artificer Angel, who is Tiana, the legendary creature from Dominaria. And like, we don't have Angel with subtypes other than Ally and Artificer. Like, even the Boros Angels are not Angel Soldiers. So, oh, the Horrors could be leftovers mutated by Emrakul. That's a really good guess, Chris. That makes sense. Things that are warped from the Eldrazi being gone still. You're absolutely right. I think that's a sensible prediction. Could be Linvala goes to school. So the lighthouse at Seagate was the center of knowledge on Zendikar, and we can see in the background art for cards previewed and in the art slideshow that they're rebuilding or have rebuilt Seagate. And so maybe there's an angel that's doing something with that. But it looks, things like this angel could have been like an angel wizard or something, but wizard would imply that they've like studied magic. So I think it's interesting to have angel wizard and demon cleric and think about what they could be, because unlike a cleric transforming into part demon, it's not really the same as an angel wizard. So I don't know. So that's the end of the different hints that he gave, and the ones from the Comic-Con panel, some of my thoughts from that. So any other predictions y'all want to pipe in before I hop over to doing Turbo Draft? I think that you make a good point, though, with the horrors being linked to Emrakul.